I want to especially welcome everybody to our webinar for the year 2025. This is our first webinar this year. So Happy New Year to everybody. And thank you so much for joining. It's great to see everyone. And good morning and welcome to the season of love. I mean, it's the season of love. And that's the reason why we're having this conversation today, which is what is love without trust? It will interest you to know that a lot of people don't really know how to really quantify what trust is in their love relationships, even in the professional space. And today we're going to delve into that. We're going to tell you how to actually quantify love using trust as, a tool, basically. We're going to delve into that. And with me, my name is Chisom Wobo. I am a trust manager at Afrinvest Trustees. And with me is an expert or experts in the field, Ebonluwa Tubobo, who's an expert in the private trust field and the trust field, as well as Samuel Ako, who is also an expert in this field. And today we're going to speak on what is love without a trust. So without further ado, let's get right into it. And before I go on, if this is your first time of joining the webinar, please feel free to, say hello in the chat box. And also during the course of our conversation today, if you have questions, because we want this to be very interactive, a little bit informal, because like I said, it's the season of love. It's Valentine's Day tomorrow. So we are, we're going to make sure that this is a little bit more, and have more of an interesting vibe as opposed to a very serious conversation. Although it's a serious conversation, but we want to get you to see from the angle that we're trying to show you today. So please feel free to, use the chat box if you have questions. And also, if this is your first time joining, I want to say welcome to the Afrinvest Trustees webinar, and sit back, relax. It's going to be a very interesting one. So this is what we're going to be delving into today. The concept of love and trust, why a trust is essential for your loved ones, how trust works, the basics of, how the trust works, trust versus wills. A lot of people know what wills are, as opposed to knowing what trust is. So we're going to be speaking on what that is, what we mean by trust in terms of being Afrinvest trustees. And we're going to also see our role in protecting your legacy. For me, I'm going to take you on the concept of love and trust, and and then as we go, we're going to delve, into other aspects of, this. So I'm looking out for me, I'm going to be speaking on the concept of trust from the personal point of view, personal relationships, marriages, and all of that. And then I'm also going to be speaking, juxtaposing it with how you can effectively show love and through a trust. Okay, like we say, where there is no love without trust. Now, what are the objectives? What I'm trying to achieve today is, at the end of my portion, I want you to be able to understand the concept of love and trust in the context of family and financial planning. You're also going to learn about the role of trust in relationships, both personal and financial. And then we're going to also address common misconceptions about estate planning and trust, because I believe that this is one of the key factors that people really don't have this conversation. One important factor to consider is, like I said, tomorrow, we all know that this is the season of love, and there's going to be a lot of activities going on tomorrow. And I just want us to draw our attention to certain questions that I believe would be very key that you have if you're going on a date, for example, or you're out with your family, just celebrating, the love season. Is also good, all fun and good to have, the cakes, the dinner, the fine dining, or just being at home with your loved one. It's good to have questions that would speak on exhibiting love and trust in your relationship. Okay, so now this question is very key, and I want you to think about it. Could be something you might want to discuss with your partner today or tomorrow. Do you trust them enough Do you trust your husband? Do you trust your wife? Even if you're single or you're in a serious relationship, it's something that you want to have at the back of your mind as a, I would say as a yardstick, because it is very important that whoever is going to do life with you, should be somebody that you trust well enough to make post-mortem plans for yourself and your family. This is somebody that you can trust. You have somebody that has integrity, somebody who has foresight, and obviously somebody who is listening to an Afrinvest trustees webinar is, you gain insight, you gain financial insight into various conversations and various things surrounding, estate planning that would outlive you. Okay. Now, the second thought you should have, or the second question that you might want to discuss today or tomorrow is, if your partner, you're in a relationship or you're in a marriage and your husband or your wife works extremely hard to provide for you in their lifetime, with all that hard work outlast them? Do you think that they've set certain structures in place? Do you even think that they know some of these structures in place that, that will create something that is lasting for yourself as well as, your family members? So that is something that is very key to speak on, for just to think about today and even tomorrow being, Valentine's Day. Now, this is a food for thought I want us to have, which is, there is an end in your plan, but is there a plan after the end? It's a very, very key question to think about. Not to say that we should go into celebration of the love season of Valentine's Day with thinking about, what we at this side of the world like to think about it. We don't want to talk about it. We don't like to talk about money. But I believe that it is a very important conversation to have. And as we go further, you see why. The concept of love and trust. What is the concept of love and trust? Love and financial planning. There's one great misconception that I think that we have at this side of the world, which is you see conversations online on social media, people talking about, oh, I don't want her to be here for my money, or she's asking me various questions about my financial capabilities. What is her business with my financial capabilities, and vice versa. But I want to tell you very factually that in most cases, if you don't have these conversations at the time or the beginning of any relationship, even a business relationship, when you go into a business relationship, for example, there needs to be trust, there needs to be integrity. And how do you show that? Is understanding finances. I'm speaking on, okay, this is what I have currently, this is my goals, these are my ambitions. It is transparency. Okay. And then it's also by that transparency that you now decide together or have conversations around how to secure your family's future. And one of the great ways you can do that is financial planning and setting up a trust. Okay, because it is something that outlives you, it protects you, and it shows love. Because I believe that one of the best ways to show love and prove love to your family and to your loved ones is setting up something that outlives you, something that protects them, something that ensures that they're fine if you're not here, even when you're here. There's no greater way to show that than this. Now, estate, like I've said, estate planning ensures their well-being after you're gone. For families who, they're planning so much, they're building, they're accumulating so much wealth, and they try to avoid conversations like this. It is very important that you don't avoid these conversations, but you start putting plans in motion to create structures like this. And if you're your wife, your husband, you're listening to me, or even if you're single in your serious relationship, you're listening to me right now, I want to urge you to start having this hard, some people say it's hard, but start having these conversations now, and you would see that the benefits outweigh the risks. Even as we go further, you see real life stories of people who have set this up, or people who haven't, and how that has affected their loved ones. And for me, I would say, you haven't really shown real true love, you haven't really shown trust if you haven't set up plans like this. Now, that would lead us into personal trust. How can, for example, you're in a relationship and then you're having certain arguments and you're saying, oh, you don't trust me, I don't trust you, and all of that. how can you I can say for a fact that if I trust you well enough to have set up a private trust for you, I trust you well enough to have created a trust fund for our kids. And I don't think that that would be too much of a that would show real intention and real accountability, and showing that you have set things in motion to show true love. And that's, like we say here, is a true sign of love, being dependent on your family members, not just in by saying the word, but seeing actionable plans that show that sign, that true sign of love. Now, financial trust, like I was trying to say earlier, a trust secures and manages your family assets wisely. That is trust. That is trust, because having that trust with your finances, with your loved one, and then creating a plan that is centered around a trustee. There is, I mean, I mean, it's the facts speak for itself. It is very clear as day that that is somebody, and that is a plan that would outlive you and would secure your family and your loved one. So now let's speak on the common misconceptions, why we on this side, especially on this side of the world, we have this fear of discussing debt. If you speak to certain people, they'll be like, oh, no, I don't want a will. I don't know this your estate planning conversation. I don't want to call debt. I don't want to, God forbid. And as we go further, you see why that God forbid is not actually true. Because if you're a Christian, and also if you're a Muslim, the Bible as well as the Quran has various provisions for life after death, and you see further as we go there. So it is something that we need to start having a serious conversation. Aside from all the conversations that you've heard so far about creating a trust, it's time to actually commit. And I want to urge you, as you go out tomorrow, as you show love, start showing love in a way that outlasts you. Okay, so now we'll look at cultural differences between countries like China as well as ours. You see the differences in terms of how they plan ahead. The Chinese plan 100 plus years ahead in terms of, financial planning and generational wealth. Other cultures like ours have shorter term focus. And it's very important for us to understand that long-term financial planning ensures security for future generations. We can't overemphasize that. It is very, very important. And that's one very good way to show love, by ensuring that that love that you profess, or that you say every day, oh, I love you, I would die for you. This is how you can figuratively, die for someone. And just to put that out there. Okay, so now let's look at this. We want to compare long-term planning in the Chinese, Jewish, and Nigerian cultures. You can see the value. Now, the Chinese long-term planning horizon in years is 500 plus years. And you can see that the Jewish people have 100 plus years, and Nigeria is below 100. It is not good. Now, in terms of percentage of people with wills, you can see that the Jewish have more percentage, even though it's below 100. And I mean, the Chinese have below the Jewish people, and then the Nigerian culture is below par. It is poor. It is actually poor. And you would see that even in the Jewish culture, which is for us, for Christians, we know that the Old Testament is the Torah, right? You have, various parts of the Torah speak about leaving a wise man. I think that is in Proverbs. A wise man leaves an inheritance for his kids. That is something that a lot of them follow, and you see it in how they create businesses, how there's already a succession plan within the business to transfer assets from one generation to another. And then quite importantly, and I believe for me, when I saw this, I was a bit shocked to see that retaining wealth is still a problem in all of these cultures. And I want to say to you that I believe that one of the reasons behind these low numbers in retaining wealth is because a lot of people leave, even if they have the idea, even if they're listening, they listen to webinars like this, or they've had a will, they leave it a lot for other family members to handle. And in my experience, I know that while you might have a trusted family member, they might not be willing and able to they're not be willing and able to handle situations when they arise. For example, people who appoint their family members as executors, or create a structure around family. It doesn't last, it doesn't outlive them. And that's why you can see that retaining wealth, even across all of these cultures, is very low. And you can see here that a higher education participation, which are spectrum as opposed to generational wealth, is a little bit higher. So I want to say that, having all the education, accumulating wealth, participating in evolving of minds, and then you create something that doesn't outlive you, really defeats the purpose. So here you can see that the Chinese culture, like I said, they have a long-term plan of 500 years, 100 years for the Jewish culture, and a Nigerian culture is 30 years. I think this is extremely low, because I want to believe that I'm speaking to people who, a lot of people who should be at least 30 years and above. So if as a Nigerian, we're speaking about long-term planning for 30 years, that is extremely poor, and that is extremely low. And that's why we need to have these conversations. We need to commit to creating something that outlives you. Okay, now look at the percentage of people with wills. Nigeria is 5%. That is extremely poor. Now you can see generations retaining wealth: 5+ generations for the Chinese culture, 3+ for the Jewish culture, and 1 generation. And that's why you have a lot of people say old money. And when they say old money, it's almost like a diss. Pardon my parlance, right? It's almost like you're old money, but you really don't. You're not liquid. You don't have cash. You just have lands, and you probably have sold everything. Okay, and the money doesn't even go forward. It doesn't pass the second generation. So it's really a call to action for us, okay? And so for me, at this point, I just want to urge everyone to begin to think about this as a way to show true love. I believe that there is even there's a celebrity who I think that was a Valentine's Day gift to his wife at the time, and he bought her shares in Disney. And even though they're not married now, they're divorced, that share in Disney outlived their marriage. So this is a call to action for us to create something that would outlive you. Gift your loved ones a private investment trust, for example. Gift your loved ones a structure that that outlives them. Gift your children an education trust as Valentine's Day. That's Valentine's Day gift. Or gift your family a succession plan as a Valentine's Day gift. And trust me, it would go above and beyond to show how much you love them and how much you care for them. So at this point, I'm going to call on my colleague Ebon to take us in the next part of this webinar. Thank you so much for listening, and please stay tuned.
All right. Thank you, Chisom, for that amazing introduction. Good morning to everyone once again. My name is Ebonlua Tububo. I'm a trust manager at Afrinvest Trustees Limited, and it's a good thing that we're in the season of love. So please try to show love to everyone around you. Please try to show love to people that you know that yes, they can benefit from you one way or the other. My colleague Chisom has done quite an expansive job in trying to see how much it is important for you to say that if you love someone, they need to go above and beyond in trying to ensure that at least you have some sort of financial or estate planning in place for them. And in terms of estate planning, right, if you've been attending our webinars in the past, I'm sure most of us will be quite aware that there are different ways by which you can say you want to plan your estate. It can be through a trust, it can be through a will, it can be through a power of attorney, life insurance, and so on and so forth. But today we're going to be, putting a laser focus on how trust, right, can be a very utilized platform for you to say that yes, you want to show love to your beneficiaries. And this is by you saying, okay, you want to establish a trust, or you want to be able to set up a trust so that your loved ones, the people that you claim that you love, the people that you claim that you're going to be showing quite a little bit of affection or more affection this season, can benefit from you. So most of us probably have an idea of what trust But in as much as yes, this has a little bit of element in what we refer to as trust in the estate planning sector. Um, Trust naturally is you saying, okay, I trust you to be able to do this and I trust you to be able to handle my affairs. I trust you to be able to do this. But when you now come, in a more streamlined way to estate planning, trust in itself now means that there is a fiduciary arrangement between you and somebody who is being referred to as a trustee to be able to, give your assets to this independent neutral third party and say, you know what, I want you to hold this asset and I want you to manage this asset for the sake of my beneficiary so that if the inevitable, which is that everybody will pass on someday happens, I want my beneficiaries to be able to benefit from my estate. I want my beneficiaries to be safe, right? To be able to have something that I would have left behind in a well-structured manner. So as you see here, the slide here has been able to, give us an insight as to what exactly we refer to as a trust. And a trust is not just an oral agreement. There's going to be what is called a documentation called a trust deed that, would clearly enunciate your relationship between you and the trustees in favor of your beneficiaries. Um, how exactly do trusts work, right? I'm saying, okay, you are going to give your assets to an independent neutral third party for the sake of your beneficiaries. This already should give us an insight that there are three parties involved when it comes to, having a trust. We have the settlor. The settlor now is you who is listening to me now and trying to think, okay, you know what? I think I like this idea. I want to be able to create something that my beneficiaries can enjoy. I want to be able to create something that, if anything happens to me along the line, my beneficiaries are safe. So there is you, there is us, that is the trustees, who are duly licensed by Securities and Exchange Commission that has been given the license to be able to, administer such assets, to be able to, prefer such structures to clients that are looking to, have such structures. And then there is the third party who we refer to as the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries are basically the persons that are going to be benefiting from this entire trust structure that we're talking about. So, gentlemen, gentlewomen, how do we then say that we want to love people without, having an arrangement for them, being able to say that, okay, I have put down an estate plan for you, I've put down a financial plan for you, I've put down something that, can serve you for years to come. And in as much as most of us have ideas of giving bouquets or buying this and buying that for our loved ones. My colleague Chisom said something earlier about a celebrity that had to buy Disney shares for his beneficiary, and that's thoughtful. That's estate planning. That's what we call estate planning. So you can show love in so many ways, right? And it doesn't necessarily need to be monetary. It could be something such as creating a trust of which I'm trying to currently espouse to you all. So we have different types of trust, right? We have different types of trust buckets by which you can say you want to express your love to the people you claim you love or your beneficiaries. We have the discretionary trust. These are basically just trust arrangements where you are giving your assets to a trustee and you are telling the trustee that, okay, you know what, I really don't want to be too involved in the trust arrangement. I want you to be able to take the first end in the financial decisions or whatever decisions that will be going on the portfolio. And the good thing is that a trustee comprises of well-trained professionals who are well-versed in, the estate planning and then the financial sector, who are well equipped to be able to, provide this service of you basically just going to rest and them handling your asset. We also have the living trust. For me, I like to call the living trust the mother of all trust, the grundom of all trust. And why is that? Is because the living trust is all encompassing. It's the kind of trust where you are being given the opportunity to be able to like insert basically everything and anything that you want your trust to do for you. It's very accommodating in terms of your wishes, in terms of what you want to do um, for your trust arrangement. We have the charitable trust, and this goes for persons that are basically just all they want to just do is give back to the community. Some people are very philanthropic by nature, and they're like, okay, you know what? Rather than probably just, give it to my family members that are already doing, quite perfect for themselves, I want to give back to the community. And by a charitable trust, you can do this effortlessly because the trust will be tailored in such a way that, whichever charity cause or charity purpose that you created a trust for, it will be fulfilled to the latter. We also have the education trust. From the nomenclature itself, education trust, a trust where you are trying to see how you can be able to cater for the education of your beneficiaries without there being any lapses. So let's assume you're already training a beneficiary. It could be a child, it could be somebody that you just take as a word, and then maybe you sponsor the person up to let's say GS1, for example, and you're like, okay, you know what, I'm quite getting of age, or I'm quite in a position where, you know what, I just want to put my affairs in order. You don't need to be old to put your affairs in order. You can create an education trust where that trust is put together in such a way where you just inflow in funds, and then the trust runs all through, ensuring that the education of your beneficiaries are catered for, even most especially in the instance where you are no more. And that's the beauty of it. There are so many people that have explored this option, and they've been able to ensure that the education of their beneficiaries are not hampered upon. We also have the revocable trust, right? The revocable trust is a trust that basically you can revoke at any time, depending on maybe you've achieved the purpose for which you created the trust. And in the opposite direction, you have the irrevocable trust, a trust where it basically remains unchanged until the very last depletion of the trust asset, or if the terms of the trust structure itself has been met. Then we have the non-discretionary. Non-discretionary are for persons or settlers that feel, you know what, I want to be much more involved in the administration of my trust. I really do. I have quite a good experience of the financial market, the capital market. I know what investments to do and what's not. So you can choose your trust to be non-discretionary. That is, you want your trustees to always have to come back to you for things such as investment decisions and whatnot. And then you have the blind trust. The blind trust is like a distance cousin of the living trust. And the reason why I say this is because for the blind trust, you are creating an element of a living trust, but only in the instance that the beneficiaries are not aware of the ongoings of that trust. So the beneficiaries are basically, I won't say out of the loop, but they are not just, aware of the happenings of the trust. We also have the testamentary trust. This is a kind of trust that, is set up after uh, um, someone might have demise. So what some people do with this kind of trust is, in their wills, right? They then say, or they then direct their executors to create a trust upon that demise. So it's like saying, okay, I'm having a will, I'm listing all the assets in the will, but in the will, I'm still saying I want my executors to create a trust so that in the event of my demise, all my properties that I've acquired and I've listed in that will goes into the trust for beneficiaries, which I would have already specified in the will as well. So this is sort of like a two-step trust, because there is a will being created, and in the will there is now a trust being created. And as we all know, a will is testamentary, which means that it takes effect upon the demise of the testator or testatrix, depending on the gender of the person that created the will. Right. So we also had the asset protection trust. Some persons are just like, okay, you know what? I want to protect my asset from some interlopers. I want to protect my asset from, the taxman. So it's like you are not evading your tax, but you're just trying to be tax smart. You're just trying to look for, tax efficient ways by which you can still, pay or observe your civic responsibility, such as paying your taxes. With an asset protection trust, you are able to, do that, because you'll be working with tax experts, you'll be working with consultants who will be able to structure your trust in such a way that the tax burden of the trust would not be quite enormous in terms of, when the funds are being repatriated to you, right? We also have the celebrity trust. Most often than not, we tend to see that our celebrities are carried away by the glamour and the glitz that comes with, being a celebrity. So they don't have that time. They don't have that 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 convenience to say, you know what, I want to settle down and see how I can put my affairs and my estate in order, and which is quite unfortunate because you tend to see that these persons have acquired millions of dollars, but there's literally no estate plan, there's literally no financial plan to cater for, what happens in the event that they pass on. So it's like you've worked so hard to get so much money, you've worked so hard to put something together, but unfortunately, there is no financial plan for you to be able to, pass down that wealth that you've created to your beneficiaries. And we also have the family trust. Family trust, is quite much more largesse in terms of, the amount of work that is being put into, because it's basically almost similar to having a family office where you basically almost have a trust entity that is solely set up for administering or catering for your family. Now, what are the benefits of a trust? Why are we, gathering all of us here today and say, you know what, rather than spending too much or, by trying to show your loved ones that the only way I love you or the way I love you is by, only giving you things that are monetarily inclined or things that are, come in the form of cash. We're saying you can create a trust. You can have an estate planning, which clearly shows that you love them. Imagine, coming, out from a dinner date, and then you basically just tell your wife that, or your children that, I've set up a trust for you guys. This trust, I've put this in a condition where it can run for 50 years, it can run for 40 years. Imagine the kind of love that you're going to receive. Imagine the kind of, affection that would brew such after such revelation to your loved ones. And that's why we are saying, in as much as we all know that, yes, we're in the season of love, let us try to explore innovative ways by which we can tell our loved ones that we love them. So let's quickly go through the benefits of a trust. Why should you have a trust? Estate tax efficiency, I cannot emphasize this. Most of us have probably, heard of a trust from maybe the news by saying, okay, some persons have a trust overseas, and that's why, they are not subject to pay tax in certain ways. That is the beauty of a trust. A trust is not taxed in the way by which your personal affairs will be taxed. And that is, really beautiful for some of us that really feel like maybe we've not had enough reason or enough cajolment from our respective governmental institutions say that, I want to pay this amount of tax, right? Which is not a problem. Like I said, the idea is not for you to evade tax or to avoid tax. The idea is for you to be, tax efficient, to have tax efficiency. A trust also helps you avoid probate. Probate is applicable to wills. And when you are going to probate, I'm talking about 3 months, probably 4 months of legal battles, going to the courts and there and that. But the trust does not have that. With a trust, you're basically just meeting Afrinvest trustees and saying, I'm giving you 100 million. I'm giving you this property. I'm giving you this investment. I want you to manage it. If anything happens, let this go to my beneficiary. And even as the trust is running, you as the settlor that has set up the trust, which I explained in the previous slide, you can also have access to the funds. So it's not only a case of, the benefits of the trust or the proceeds that can come from the trust are only accessible to your beneficiaries. No, you yourself that has also set up the trust can have access to this benefit. And with that, you've avoided the bureaucracies that comes with probate. You've avoided the red tapes that come with probate. Asset protection. I mentioned this earlier. You basically said, I want to protect my assets from, third parties, from, foreclosing family members, from persons that I feel like don't have any business to know the affairs of my estate. Asset protection is also similar to privacy protection because you are trying to be private, and that's the beauty about the trust. A trust is confidential. Nobody can know the arrangement you had with a trustee or the arrangement that you've put together in favor of your beneficiaries, except if in the most likely of scenarios, there is a court case and then the court says, okay, they need to unveil or they need to, descend into the arena and then know what is in the trust deed. But in my years of experience, I have as a trust and estate planning practitioner, I've never even experienced that, right? So there is an extreme level of confidentiality and privacy protection that is applicable to your trust, right? There is also protection for future generations. I cannot overemphasize this. Like I said, you can create a trust that lapses or that, extends for 20, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years. I've seen second generation trust, I've seen third generation trust of persons that have established, trust, and their third generation are still benefiting from that estate all to today. Continuity and flexibility. A trust is flexible. It's not like, a will where if you want to make any change, you probably have to, do a codicil, then reload, do that. A trust is covered by a trust deed, which you can easily and the trustee, right? There's also control over asset distribution. You have the complete right to say, I want to determine how my assets are distributed. I want to determine how, my beneficiaries benefit from my estate. So having looked at trust, some of us would be like, okay, you know what? A will also can be used to, show love. Because imagine if I write my beneficiaries in my will and I tell them that, okay, I've written a will, and I've had a will. That's also a good way to say that yes, you love your spouse, or you love the people that look up to you, or you love your beneficiaries. So we are just going to, use this slide to juxtapose between the trust and wills and see how they can complement or how they differ from each other. Because like I said, they are all estate planning tools. They are all tools by which you can plan your estate for, future generations, for times wherein your benefits can benefit on you. A will is a legal document which most of us are aware of, where you basically say, I made this will this last day, the day of day. I have this also property, domiciled in this also place, in this also manner, and I want to give these properties or these assets to this also person. A will is straightforward, and after you do that, you approach the probate and you lodge it, right? A trust, like I said, it kicks off even as at when you're alive. There is no testamentary element to a trust. There is no okay, it only takes place upon the demise of whoever has set up the trust, which in this sense we refer to them as the settlor. In a will, we refer to them as a testator or a testatrix, depending on the gender. So these two are different in their ways by which, a will says, okay, when I pass on, all of these assets should go to this person. A trust is saying, even while I'm alive, I want these also persons to benefit, so that even when I'm no longer there, they can benefit in the same manner as which they've been benefiting when I'm alive. And that is the beauty, and that's the difference between, a will and a trust. Let's still go for that. When we try to distinguish between trust and wills, like I said, a trust is not applicable to probate. There is no probate. There is no going to court, having the executors or the administrators or the estate to come this and do that and do that. A trust is straightforward. But like a will really has to go through probate. A will has to, go through certain things, certain bureaucratic court processes. Also, a trust is a private arrangement, which I mentioned earlier. It's very confidential. It's very personal. It's between you, the trustee, and in some cases, such as the living trust, the beneficiaries. But in the cases where the blind trust, the beneficiary probably does not even need to know what is going on. It depends. The beneficiary will just know that yes, it's benefiting from the trust. But a will is a public document, like a trust. If you create a will today, and let's say, or someone creates a will today and the person passes on, and the will is read, automatically, once the will has been read, it becomes a public document. And being a public document, it means that any Tom, Dick, and Harry can approach the probate court and say, you know what, I want to have an insight as to what was written in this will. But that is not applicable in the case of a trust, which, makes the trust quite a very, very amazing, attractive sort of like estate planning tool, right? So let's quickly go through life stories of persons that, had a trust or put certain things together because of our time, right? Paul Walker, who happened to like be one of the major actors of the Fast and Furious franchise. We all know what happened to him. Unfortunately, he passed on in his prime, and at the time of his death, sources claim that it was worth over $25 million. But beautiful for Paul Walker, he was dutiful enough to set up a trust so that as a celebrity, eventually his beneficiaries can benefit from his properties and his assets. Whitney Houston, also, we all know her as an amazing singer, a Grammy Award winner, multiple Billboard Awards, multiple American Music Awards. Whitney Houston created a testamentary trust. She was able to say, you know what, I'm an amazing singer and I'm amazing this, amazing that. I'm massive amount of wealth, but I have to put in something in place for my beneficiaries to benefit from. And that is what she was able to do, by creating a testamentary trust. Unfortunately, her daughter died just about 3 years over leaving her estate to her mother. But sources claim that her daughter is being well taken care of by the mother based on just Whitney Houston taking that innovative to create a testamentary trust. Gani Fahimi brings us home, is one of us in terms of like a nationality, right? So it's somebody that we can easily relate to, right? Gani Fahimi, being a prominent lawyer, being someone that had quite a number of children, he was also dutiful enough to create a testamentary trust, which to today, based on the knowledge existing in the industry, his beneficiaries are benefiting from that trust even up to today. All of his children, every single person that he has named as beneficiaries in his arrangement are still benefiting from today, which is quite commendable. Imagine, every Valentine's Day, for example, there has been a standing order payment for the sum of 2 million naira to be deposited into your account, or 10 million naira to be deposited in your account. That's a form of love. That's a form of, expressing your love to someone. There's also the case of the Hebrew family, which quite is a construct to what we've been saying, right? The Hebrew family, unfortunately, for the great man knows that Mr. Michael Hebrew was not, able enough to put in an estate plan, and unfortunately, the Hebrew family went through quite a lot of, legal scuffle in trying to know who goes away with this or who goes away with that, and sources still claim that up to today, the case is still in court because there was no estate plan in place or there was nothing in place. So, on this note, I really hope we've been able to understand and realize how we can be able to show love to our loved ones by ensuring that we create a sort of financial and estate plan arrangement for them. And on this note, I'll be handing over to my colleague Samuel Akor, who will be taking us through the role of a trustee in protecting your legacy and the rest of the webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chisom and Eben, for laying such good foundation. My assignment here has been made seamless. So just in case you missed all Chisom said, in a nutshell, compared to other cultures, Nigeria isn't as great in long-term planning. And we make jokes like, make next of kin go hustle. Forgive my balance though, which is wrong because a wise man leaves an inheritance for his children. While Eben gave us some real life stories as to why it is important to have a trust, he also listed some types of trust, their benefits, just in case as he was speaking, say some of this listed trust resonated with you, feel free to send us an email after the webinar for us to set up a trust for you. So with all that being said, what are the roles of a trustee in protecting your legacy? Before I speak to that, who exactly is a trustee? A trustee is a person or a corporate entity responsible for managing assets held in the trust for the benefit of a beneficiary or beneficiaries. The diagram below illustrates a trust structure showing the trustee, the beneficiaries, and the assets. Statistics shows that over 60% of estate loses their wealth by the second generation due to poor planning and mismanagement. Without proper management, inherited wealth can quickly disappear due to poor financial decisions, family conflicts, legal issues. That is why having a trusted trustee is essential. A professional or a corporate trustee, which in this case, Afrinvest trustees, ensures that your assets are well managed, legally protected, and distributed fairly, so your legacy could last for generations. With that being said, here we look at the responsibilities of a trustee and how to ensure that they act in your best interest to that of yourself, your loved ones, and the future generation. Some of the key responsibilities of a trustee are they act in your best interest to make decisions that benefits you and your family. Also, they manage and protect your assets to ensure that your money are properly and wisely invested and secured. For me, the most important job of a trustee would be following the law, making sure all legal and financial matters are well handled correctly to protect your assets from any issues. Lastly, they distribute and keep records, ensuring funds go to the right people at the right time to keep adequate records also. On the right-hand side of the screen, you would see some of the ways to keep your trustees accountable. Some of the ways are regular audits to check your trust performance from time to time. So here at Afrinvest trustees, we don't wait for our clients to actually request their trust performance. We send it to them on a monthly basis and based on request. Also, clear trust documents to make sure your trust deed clearly outlines the roles and expectation of a trustee, and open communication between the beneficiary, which is you, and the trustee, us, to make sure the beneficiary is everything is transparent with both the trustee and the beneficiary, and all matters are clear. So with that being said, we're open for questions. Just say you have questions and you've actually typed them on the chat box, or you have questions now, feel free to type them in the chat box and we would address that this minute. Thank you so much for your time thus far. We're open for questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. I think I see a question here. So the question says, if I'm able to set up a trust, at what point can I terminate the trust? Okay, so basically, if you set up a trust, right, it all depends on the objective that you are trying to, achieve with setting up the trust. Like I said, there are different types of trust, right? There could be a charitable trust, there could be an educational trust. For an educational trust, in terms of giving into context, some persons may say, you know what, upon my children attaining, obviously the last child attaining probably a master's degree, I would like the trust to be terminated. That in a way can be a very valid basis for saying you want to terminate your trust. It could also be maybe you've been able to sort of like meet your charitable goal. Maybe you wanted to create a charitable type of trust that caters for particular set of students in a particular institution from a particular year to a particular year. There are different avenues for which you can be said to to want to terminate your trust. Another question says, what are the fees basically applicable for setting up a trust? I cannot give a black and white answer to this, and this is because when we as trustees look at certain elements or certain parameters for which we decide for what will be applicable in terms of the cost of the trust, we have to sit down with the client. We need to understand certain things, right? And this is basically not to undercharge, and basically also not to overcharge the client. And believe you me, after one or two discussions with us as trustees, we have other products that are quite straightforward, right? We have the education trust, which if you send us an email after the event, we're able to prefer a much more streamlined fee arrangement for you. But for the living trust, for example, we have to probably sit down to you one or two times and then understand your affairs, and then being able to then prefer a cost that would not be harmful to your portfolio, and will also serve as a means of good stream of revenue for us as trustees.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's this question from Solomon. He said, I'd love to have the recorded notes. Okay. So just in case we didn't mention, the recording will be shared after the webinar as well as the webinar slides. So as you could have it handy. Our emails are also there. You could reach out to us, say you have further questions on that.
Okay, thank you, Samuel. Someone else says, uh, uh, is there a minimum amount to set up a trust? Then and again, it depends on the kind of trust that you're looking to set up. Some of our trusts even do not have any setup fee. It comes at zero cost in terms of you setting up the trust, which is basically our well-known private investment trust. I'm sure most of us will have seen a lot of circulars in terms of our private investment trust program. For example, that kind of trust arrangement comes with zero setup fees. So then and again, it also depends on the kind of trust structure that you're looking to create. You can always send us an email at trustees@afrinvest.com. I'm sure when you get the slides, you also see our emails. Our contact is currently showing on the screen, trustees@afrinvest.com. You can also streamline your request to any of the individual mails that you can see on the screen, and be rest assured that we would always reach out to you with alacrity, and we'll be able to answer all of your questions. And somebody asked a question. He said, what happens if the trustee goes under? Well, in as much as I don't want to answer the question because we're definitely not going to go on that, but then let me answer the question just to allay your fears, right? When you register as a trust company with the Securities and Exchange Commission, right, there are certain responsibilities that you're bound under, and one major responsibility that you have to do as a trustee or as a trust house is you must separate your proprietary asset from your client asset. Now, what this does is your assets are separate. You must not commingle your client asset with your asset, because if anything happens to you as a corporate institution and then you go under, your client asset must be safe. So there's not a case of, we invested your funds with our funds, and being that us, we have gone under, your funds have gone under. No, that is definitely not going to happen in this case. Your assets are safe, your assets are secured, your assets are put in well-structured investment vehicles, well-structured financial and estate planning arrangement, in such a case that, God forbid, would definitely not happen, Afrinvest West Africa itself has cumulatively over probably 30 years of operation in the capital market, and even one of the best. Right, so there is no possibility here of Afrinvest trustees going on that. But like I said, just to allay your fears, we do not commingle our client assets. We separate our proprietary assets from our client assets, in the case that even if we go under, there's also the possibility of a successor trustee coming in to also help the client administer their estate. So in addition to us not commingling, there's a possibility and the definite occurrence of a successor trustee coming in to administer the assets of such clients who would have had their trust with us.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. That was the perfect answer. And I mean, in the rare case that, we go under, which is highly impossible, there are factors in place, and there's also one of the interesting things that happens is that all of those assets that, like he said, are separated from Afrinvest trustees reverts back to the settlers, which is you. So you have the opportunity, or it goes back to you basically. So that's very key to know. So I also there's an interesting question I would like to attempt to respond to. It is, what's the difference between a family office and a trust? In this case, can a registered family office act as a trust as well? So I mean, for a family office are, they are structures that are set up or catering for ultra high net worth individuals. And if a family office is set up in the right way, ideally it should have a trust element. However, a family office that is registered cannot act as a trustee on its own. A family office should have a trustee that handles. I always like to say that if a trustee should actually be setting up family offices for ultra high net worth individuals, because they have the expertise in terms of estate planning. A family office should cater to the minute, the littlest things for such an individual, even to what they would eat the next morning. A proper family office that is set up, the trustee should be able to handle in terms of the legal sides of things, the trust side of things, the estate planning side of things, the corporate governance of various companies, the investment side of things. The trustee should have an overview of all of that and ensure that there is actual succession plan, because a family office is not just to say, I have a family office. There should be a succession plan that's, that is able to, that family office structure is derived from. Okay, so it's very separate and somehow distinct from each other, but they go hand in hand. So for anyone who's interested, we also offer that services as Afrinvest trustees. We offer that to ultra high net worth individuals or individuals who want to have a multi-family office as well, which is other HNIs or people who think that they're looking forward to, or they want to set some such structures up. We can assist you in structuring that and advising you on the best possible ways to go about it. So thank you.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much, Chisom. Thank you so much, Ebon. So I think we've come to the end of our webinar. Once again, thank you so much to Chisom and Ebon for an insightful webinar. We're looking forward to the next one. I'm speaking on behalf of the attendees now. It's so nice to always be acquainted with you guys. So if we're unable to answer any of your questions, feel free to send us an email. We would address it and also would actually pick it up from here and respond. The webinar slides will be shared as well as the recording. With that, we've come to the end of our webinar. Thank you so much. Till next time. We remain Afrinvest trustees. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Enjoy your Valentine's Day tomorrow.
Valentine's. Bye.
Bye.